Mr. President, I'm writing this open letter to express my gratitude, especially to you, Mr. President. Your resilience, particularly after surviving an assassination attempt, inspired me. You persevered in your dream of serving Americans and campaigned hard president election. And this gave me the strength to fight for my life. I was illegally held in the Melbourne Northern Hospital mental health ward by the police and the hospital between February 18th and 28th, 2025. As I prepared to leave the hospital, the doctors, specifically psychiatrists, tried twice to persuade me to stay, saying that they could perform immediate surgery if they found problems in my brain. I refused. While I took their mental pills, acting as a good patient so I can get out of the hospital for the federal election campaign. And I knew a few days pills could not cause permanent damage to my brain, but I would not allow them to operate on my brain. To clarify, Mr. President, like the US, that in Australia, the vast majority of doctors, hospitals, and police work to protect and save lives. My experience is rare, but it will not diminish my love for Australia and humanity. I firmly believe that the Australian government will address the corruption I experienced and bring me justice. Furthermore, I would like to share my perspective on President's America First policy. First, President's historical role. If the latest wave of globalization propelled the AI-driven industrial revolution to unprecedented heights, Mr. President took office. Yet, our thinking remained merged in a Cold War mindset. Bureaucracy and corruption had infiltrated our system globally like cancers. Many organizations and policies, despite being born with good intentions, had been hijacked, becoming financial burdens to countries and people worldwide. Echoing this sentiment, like Mr. President, Australian opposition leader Susan Ley has also announced a halt to supporting the net zero policy in Australia. Mr. President's America First policy dramatically reshaped the US and the global political and economic landscape. Your decisive action on tariffs and the withdrawal from international agreements ushered in a new era of deglobalization, allowing America to refocus, rebuild its strength, and consolidate its economic leadership. This mirrors President Roosevelt's American isolationism, which provided a safe haven that allowed the US to focus on economic reform, leading it out of the Great Depression and ultimately enabling a crucial leadership role in World War II. However, America First should not be interpreted as self-isolation, but rather is another interval in human progress. Therefore, Mr. President has already taken a historical role by initiating deglobalization, provide a world time to rectify and adjust our thinking and work in preparation for the post-AI era, while leading the US to prepare for future leadership. Mr. President still shoulders the heavy responsibility to ensure America remains a promoter of world peace. The most significant threat to global peace today is terrorism fueled by extremism, particularly in conflict zones. Recent events like the Bondi massacre in Australia and September 11 attacks in America amplify this danger. While China and Russia pose challenges, China's primary focus is not territory expansion through war. Instead, China is competing for global leadership in technology, economy, and cultural influence in the post-AI era. Globalization has significantly altered the Chinese government's perspective, leading them to pursue superpower status through soft power to maintain the CCP's authoritarian control, while simultaneously use its military to protect China's interests. Therefore, Mr. President's historical role lies not in instigating a new Cold War, but in securing American leadership through soft power in the post-AI era, while actively combating terrorism and safeguarding world peace. Second, challenges facing Mr. President. Mr. President's recent actions have presented a series of challenges. Abduction of Venezuela's President Maduro, a previously unheard of act, breached an independent nation's sovereignty, destabilized both Venezuela's internal affairs and the overall regional stability. Furthermore, America's pursuit of Greenland, a move that surprised the world, contradicts the accepted understanding of America First policy. These actions instead portray America as a global expansionist driven by a desire for power and resources in the post-AI era. As a result, your legacy is a peacemaker, particularly your effort to broker peace in Gaza and Ukraine is at risk, jeopardizing the potential for positive outcomes. Some advisors may suggest that America's is under threat without Greenland, or that controlling Venezuela is essential for America's oil supply and economic stimulation. The greatest threat to American security lies within corruption and lack of coordination between intelligence agencies and law enforcement, reminiscent of the failure leading to the September 11th. These obstacles, fueled by narrow nationalism and great nation chauvinism, are the primary hindrances to the success of America First policy and are damaging America's global standing. Although American laws may permit actions like apprehending foreign leaders and disregarding international laws, universal principles of human conduct, especially in international relations, extend beyond legal frameworks. Military might be able to offer short-term security, but genuine and lasting prosperity is achieved through a combination of hard and soft power, including fostering collaboration with other countries. President Roosevelt stated, "A good navy is not a provocation to war. It is the surest guarantee of peace." Third, continue building a legacy, Mr. President. The world has been impressed by Mr. President's success transition from business to political leadership. A success rooted in integrity in your core values of integrity, accountability, and resilience. These values were clearly demonstrated during your visits with victims of the September 11 attacks and when you held a Bible outside a synagogue following a terrorist attack. In stark contrast, under President Maduro's authoritarian rule, Venezuela, despite possessing the world's largest oil reserves, has suffered greatly, plagued by corruption, human rights abuse, and economic decline. For Venezuelans, achieving justice through a trial in Venezuela for Mr. Maduro's crimes would be more meaningful than a trial through a court in America. It presents the U.S. with an opportunity to regain the trust of its Latin American neighbors. This approach also mirrors President Roosevelt's good neighbor policy, prioritizing non-intervention and mutual cooperation. Such a policy would allow America to focus on its own renewal and prepare to lead in the post-AI era. As a long-standing member of NATO, Denmark is an integral part of the free world defense network. However, America's insistence on purchasing Greenland risks conflict with a key ally, potentially harming NATO. Following the U.S. withdrawal from many international organizations, requesting Denmark's territory further isolates the US and risks turning allies into adversaries. Instead, America and Denmark could cooperate on Greenland's development. This cooperative approach would strengthen the free world's global defense under US leadership, demonstrating that true leadership is rooted in the trust, clear and shared vision, rather than dominance. The post-AI era will shift away from direct military conflict and reliance on traditional resources, prioritizing talent, technology, and new super energy resources. Factor that will determine a nation's superpower status, even without nuclear weapons. Successfully navigating this era requires international cooperation to minimize local conflicts. As countries adapt their policies to the post-AI world. Mr. President, I hope you achieve greater success in establishing a legacy as a proponent of peace, morality, and a bright future for everyone in the post-AI era. May God bless you, Mr. President, and may peace prevail worldwide. Sincerely, Helen Huang, an Australian citizen, author of